I am finally able to tackle the question I've been getting a lot of comments asking, what should I buy for street photography? The Ricoh GR III, which I had when it first came out, did a full review on that, check that out, and its adapter, and the wide angle adapter, versus the Fuji X100V, which now I've had for a little bit of time, still working more in depth with this, but huge fan of what this is. But which is the better buy? The GR3 is essentially $900, and this guy right here is $1,400. So there's a disparity between, but what separates the difference? So this isn't a full main review, breakdown, hands-on. This is more like we're gonna go by categories, which I'll say in a second. I just give you my thoughts per and just a couple quick highlights to maybe help you decide what the camera is for you from someone who's actually used these before, and to maybe help you go in depth a little bit, but really no insane pictures or video or anything like that. There's a lot of reviews out there, check those out. This is hopefully just more of a checklist thing for you. But let's go over the categories how I'm gonna assess this. I'm gonna try and make this a quick and less boring video than it already is. But we're gonna tackle the video, which is gonna be a very quick category. We're gonna do the camera build, its feature. We're gonna feature the lens a little bit, just to kind of show you what you're getting in that regards. Its features, how's the autofocusing? And another one, the stills experience. I mean, they both take photos. The battery life, and then an important part, in my opinion, for fixed lenses, because both have fixed lenses, they're not interchangeable. The accessories you can get for them, and the pricing and importance of those. So let's really dive into that. I'm gonna have a table of content down in the description below. If you want to hear me shush and you want to jump ahead, definitely feel free to do that as well. But here are my thoughts on that. But I think now is the first viable time where the X100V is obviously their better and best, newest X100 line camera. And it's pretty much a mini X Pro 3, as it has some of the guts in it as well. And it's very, very superior. So you're gonna actually hear my mindset kind of change a little bit. And I actually really like the X100V just a bit more over the GR3, even though I'm a big fan of both. So the first part, I just want to cover video real quick. And I've always said this for the Ricoh GR line, they are not meant for video. The GR2, not good, very shaky. Now, the GR3 does incorporate a 3-axis shake reduction type system, which helps more for maybe the still side of things, but for video, it really doesn't offer or do much. So if you're into video, the GR line is never an option. It's just an amazing, pocketable street photography camera, whereas the X100V finally has a lot of video options and definitely something that you can rely on. It's got full 4K, whereas the GR3 only shoots, I mean, only is fine, but 1080 at 3 frame rates, whereas the X100V shoots 720, 1080, 4K, all at various frame rates. So you have a lot more flexibility with that. There's no mic input for the GR3, but for the X100V, you got your mic input, you got your shoe, so you can pretty much do a lot with that, and it's rather strong. Starting off with the GR3, you're getting I like the build of the GR3, but it's definitely not super durable. I feel like if you drop that, it might have a tendency to crack, but I really like the build of the camera, and its perk is it's obviously hand-holdable. It is so pocketable. You can fit those in some tight, skinny jeans if you wear those, which no one should ever wear skinny jeans, and you can fit that in there with no problem. And that's one of the big perks, and that's why it's great for street photography, because it's one of the stealthiest, minimalistic cameras that you could have that does not draw a lot of attention. The lens on it, though, is an 18.3 millimeter, which 35 millimeter equivalent is 28 millimeters, and it's an f2.8. And in regards to the grip of the camera, it's actually pretty nice. I like the feeling of it. It's got a wide grip right there, so it's pretty ergonomic for people with bigger hands like myself. So it's actually very good. There is no tilt screen, but it is touchscreen, and it's very responsive, and they did a very good job with that. It doesn't have a thumbstick, but it has a rear dial on the back where we access the menu that I feel is pretty good. You can dial exposure that way, change it up a little bit, but not a lot of customization, which I'll tackle in a second. But that's really the GR3. The X100V is actually very, very solid. I like the feel of this camera. It's not the door version like the new X Pro 3 and stuff has, but I would trust if I drop this. It might take a ding or two, but it would definitely hold up and protect, the sensor and anything on the camera, for the most part. And it does have a newer 23 millimeter f2 lens. Now the f2 side of things does get a little soft, you know, corner to corner if you're really pixel peeping. But if you go to f2.8, you pretty much alleviate any of that. And it's a very strong lens. It's portable, but it's not pocketable necessarily. It's definitely a bit thicker. So you could fit that in like a hoodie pocket or a coat pocket, but definitely not, you know, your jeans, like if you wanted something super minimal. So there's that. It's comfortable. The grip is okay. It's a little slippery in my opinion, but for me, I need a little bit more. So I have the thumb grip on the back, the lens grip thumb mate, and the lens mate thumb grip, and that helps me out a little bit more. So a little less ergonomical, but still pretty good compared to the past. It's got the back joystick, which I absolutely love on cameras, and it has a proper, not the X Pro 3 version, of a tilt screen, touch screen. So works very well. That's a camera build. So a bit more durable as well, but yeah, I would trust this if I drop this a little bit more. Diving into the features and touching upon the autofocus real quick, Ricoh GR III. Autofocusing speed is actually pretty decent, but the GR line has never been known to have outstanding autofocusing and dual pixel and all that kind of stuff. It kind of is what it is. That camera is really best used to use like snap, zone focus and everything, to where you kind of set it to a certain millimeter away, 1.52, so that way you know an arm length away is where it's going to be in focus, etc. So essentially pre-manual focusing, if you really want to break it down to its elements. That's the greatest option there. But this isn't a super fancy camera, like I've mentioned before. 24 megapixels crop sensor, fine, allows you to crop in a little bit. The one thing that I do love, it shoots DNG, a digital negative, RAWs. So it's universally readable, and that is one thing cameras do not use, and I wish more did instead of their native one right there. It is USB-C compatible as well, so you can actually charge it on the go. Battery life, which I cover a little bit, kind of helps feed into that, but you can charge via USB-C and it works great. It also does go into a normal and macro mode, which is something that this really doesn't do, the X100V, but that is a very big perk, and it does work rather well on the GR III. The other thing I'd also say is there's not much customization, really function buttons outside of the camera, because it's really just kind of set it, use it, click, and move on. But I will say that it does have a 2-stop 0.6 ND filter built in, which is a great option. Now, there is a long list of positives and features and everything that the X100V gives, and that's why I think it really outnotches the GR line for this line, and probably, you know, for the hundreds of dollars more, if you really care about a lot of the stuff, really justifies the price. But the autofocusing speed is phenomenal, light years better. 425 hybrid autofocusing points between phase and contrast really shows a big difference in how much that can help. 26 megapixel crop sensor, so the 2 isn't going to make much of a difference, but I really love the tones that this camera gives off. But I will say the GR line gives off phenomenal and one of the best tones you can have if you're using black and white cameras. No doubt in my opinion, but the X100V does pretty well as well, but it also has all of those film simulation modes for JPEGs if you love shooting that type of stuff. So you have all that with that in there as well. You have a high rate for continuous shooting in both mechanical and electronic shutter. So you have that. It's also a hybrid. So it has the optical hybrid viewfinder right here. And then on the back, it has the electronic as well. So you are able to switch between both EVF, OVF if you want, just by like flicking the switch up front. And you can switch between either. I don't use either. I'm more of the LCD shooter, but even the EVF is pretty bright. So that is a huge perk for this. It also has no low pass filter. It also has a digital 50mm and 70mm crop, kind of like the Leica Q2 for that matter, built in. So there are adapters out there, which I'll cover in the accessories, but if you want something in camera, this has that as well. Tilt touchscreen, obviously great. The customization options you have for this are pretty good. There's a couple buttons around the camera, clicking dials and everything that you can set if you want quicker access to things. So more customization. The menu in Fuji I really, really like over a lot of the brands out there. Canon's pretty decent as well. But other than that, USB-C, and it also does have a built-in ND neutral density filter. So there's a lot of options. So in regards to the shooting experience with both cameras, just briefly, the Ricoh GR III, once again, very minimalistic. It is not invasive or intrusive to anyone. It's really just kind of click, done, go, you move on. Once again, if you're snap focusing, you know exactly where your focus is going to be, and you can, you know, react and capture to what you need. It's not hard. It's a very easy camera to control. It's very minimalistic, and it's very, very great to get stills from it. Like I said, some of the best black and whites I've ever made or I've seen others use, they're very, very good, and they came from the GR3. Using this guy right here is also pretty good, but it can be a little bit complicated if you're not used to this camera here. You have the ISO dial up here where you gotta lift it up and change it, and then, you know, switch the shutter dial and everything, and then there's a dial here, there's a dial here, so it can be a bit complicated for someone who's never used this type of line or this type of camera before. But overall, even shooting with the X100V, I'm very used to shooting with the X Pro III, and it shoots very, very similar. The autofocusing, once again, is very, very similar. And I just have a very positive experience to both. And I think if you know how to shoot photos and set your exposure, you're fine in regards to the stills experience. But definitely, this is a little bit more, it's still pretty minimal in my opinion compared to a lot of the cameras out there. But if you want a little bit more stealth, you're going to go with the GR3. But this has a very, very good overall rating as well. So I'd say both are obviously fine for stills. You're going to get a lot more juice out of the X100V with about 350, 400 shots. I found that the battery pretty much lasts a very long time. Definitely, though, you probably will want another one. And the same for the GR2, which is rated for around 200 photos. But I did, or the GR3 with 200 photos. And I do find that the Ricoh drains probably a bit more on that as well. But the X100V, I think, does very, very well with the battery. It's the same battery that their X Pro III uses as well. So you are able to use the same, and it's definitely a bit better on the X100V. Last but not leastly, if you wanted to hear about the accessories, here you go. Some of the most important ones, and really there's only a couple for the GR3. If you look, obviously, looking at the camera, it doesn't have a viewfinder at all. You just have the back screen. You do have an option with the GV2, a mini viewfinder for $250. Say you just sit on the shoe and you're able to have a viewfinder for that $250. The other thing you need, if you want more of a wide angle than what you already have, is the GW4 and the GA1, which is the adapter that the GW needs to go on. That's your wide angle adapter. And I reviewed that as well. So if you want to see more about that, check out that review. And it's very plasticky. It is very cheaply made, and it is very plasticky for what it is. But it's a solid piece of glass that I think helps a little bit, but it doesn't make that much of a difference. So it's not too huge of a change in that regards. I don't know if it's 100% worth it, in my opinion, because the adapter alone is a $50 piece of, plastic, and then it's $220 for the wide angle adapter lens for it. And the X100V also has a couple of great options, but they are very too expensive for what they are. It is kind of a joke, and Fuji should look into that, but they're not going to care because they want money, of course. It's not a weatherproof camera for all means, but there is an adapter, a 49mm protection filter that you use the accessory on, and you are able to get that, and that's essentially $56. So if you want to make your camera weatherproof, you're not going to put on any kind of converters or anything, you can proof it with a certain protection filter that they have. You have the WCL X100 II, which is the wide angle lens. It's the electronic version. You don't have to jump into the camera. The same thing for the tele one, but it's $350. So if you're wide angle teleconverter, it is stupidly expensive. If anything, it should cost about $150, $200. So it's very overpriced. Then they have the TCL X100 II, which is the teleconverter, and that is also $350. Same thing, too damn expensive. It's got to get stepped down there. Those are some of the main options you have in the teleconverters. It's just really up to you if you want to spend the money on them. But the fact that the teleconverters for the Fuji cost as much as their actual lenses, and this is not an interchangeable lens camera, is redonkulous. So definitely since 2017, my thoughts have changed, and I really, really like what the X100V is, and I think Fuji basically hit a home run with this camera right here. That's not to say I don't like the GR3. I actually really, really like shooting with that GR line, and the GR3 is once again pretty elite for street photography in there, but I think you get way more functionality and customization, and you know, to sacrifice a little bit more of the size of pocketability to go with the X100V here. And I think it's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion. Because like I said, Fuji really had a home run with this one, and just, you know, for the hundreds of dollars more, and I know budget's an option for everyone, but if you want a little bit more, the X100V notches it out this year. But I do applaud Ricoh or Pentax for keeping that line going, because it needs to keep happening. It's a legendary line, and it does a lot for street photography. If for somehow you stuck around this whole video, which that's never going to happen, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, or just want more thoughts about something, maybe specific of either camera, I'd love to answer those down in the comments, you know, below for you, and we could go from there. But either way, both cameras are amazing for street photography. You just obviously get a lot more out of the X100.